Kaczynski passes away in prison on an apparent suicide. So we will be talking about what that means, what the reaction of that is, and where we go from there. A heavily traveled section of I-95 collapses in Philadelphia. The climate change people blame climate change. The infrastructure people blame Republicans, and it really might just be an actual traffic accident. So we'll go over what's actually happening there, what is going on with that, and what this means. Donald Trump fires back as his indictment as he has arrived in Doral to face his second indictment. So we'll go over all of the news from that from over the weekend, some of the bad takes, some of the good takes, and the feds getting ready to go back out and be on parade. And speaking of feds, a group of swastika flag waving people who don't act like any people who wave swastika flags ever are seen outside of yet another Disney event. Well, mysteriously, because nobody else who has any footage of that particular gate saw them that day, but we'll be talking about that. Plus a whole lot more here today, because we had a quite busy weekend over here on Contemporary. So strap yourselves in, find a friend, get a few people, more people over here, and we will see you on this other side of the title card. So I was the one flying the balloon. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. I got so frustrated with the cable company and what was happening with the internet, I completely forgot to put the announcement out. I went over on Twitter and I just realized, oh wait, no, I never put the announcement video out there because I was waiting to see if it was going to completely cut me off and then go back and put that on. Let me throw one on the Discord here too, so that people over here on the Discord know that we're here. By the way, it's got my friend Mr. Behavior does come back out there and automatically he's got an automatic alert for some of his friends on stream, and it actually showed twice. So we completely disconnected over on the Twitch side because his match is out at the Twitch. But, you know, they actually kind of saw what was happening as it was happening live, which was kind of nice. So, and as soon as it went back to excellent condition, I told him, I said, I can't deal with this right now. We're waiting to go live. We're actually a little bit late here, so... But this happens at 6 o'clock every day, and I don't know what it is. Why we're having this problem at the same time every day. It'd be different if the stream cut off in the middle of the stream or something, but it's at 6 o'clock every time. Well, it's not every day, but it's every time it happens. It's right as we're ready to get started. But we are ready to get started here. I can sit here and complain about the cable company forever, or we can sit down and have a conversation about what is going on in the news today, which is what we plan to do. So grab some friends, grab some snacks, grab something to drink. I've got a... Oh, wait, well, no, never mind. I'm not going to do that because the people who have put the liquid into this bottle are not paying me to have their name on the screen. So never mind. I'm not going to brag about them here, but with that, it's not alcoholic, by the way. I do have to work tomorrow, but with that, let's get into it. Let's get started. Before we do, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys, Tweets by Britt, Mr. Behavior, The No Gimmicks Podcast, Silent Caster, and Clown World Chronicles with Papa Palpatine. That's right, go check out all that great programming as we sit here intent to bring you a better news experience from the common man for the common man. That's right. For too long, we've all got our news from people who hate us and wear suits that cost more than our houses. No more! Get your news from people who are just like you. Go check out all that great programming, and let's get started with the finance on the day. And we're going to start with the Dow today, as we always do. You're muted again. How does it do that? Like when I switch the scene, it mutes. Sean Hannity hates me? Yes, he does. God, I wish I could figure out what happens, why that does that. I don't know if it's just because I had the scene muted the last time I picked it up or what it was, but anyway. Alright. All I was saying was I went over what happened, like the Instagram audience all heard that, but I went over what happened before we got live. I said I wasn't going to complain about Spectrum anymore, but then I started to complain about Spectrum is what happened. I think maybe the tech gods hated me or something, or somebody came in and muted my side over there. No, it's what happens whenever I do that, when I get started. I hit the live button, and then it just starts dropping frames. It keeps dropping frames for like 10 to 15 minutes, and then it just completely disconnects the stream. And then everything's fine. We have excellent connection. We've got 60 FPS, so I don't know what the problem is. I don't. I will find out what the problem is at some point. But with that, we've got to get into the news and get started. Alright, let's get into it. Grab some friends, get some people in here, and let's get started. We've had enough tech issues for the day. Alright, looking at the Dow. The Dow is up on the day today. It actually spent the entire day up, not dipping below the previous close. Ending the day at 34,066.33. That is up 189.55 points, about 0.5%. So not a major gain. It was kind of stalling throughout the rest of the day before it took a nice big jump at the very, very end of trading today. And we will see what happens with that and where the futures go with that tomorrow. Looking at your Bitcoin, that's been basically a steady day today. It did wind up, but not by very much. 25,937 US dollars is the day's exchange on the day, so 0.01% on the Bitcoin. Looking out over the weekend, though, After Friday, we saw a very, very, very significant drop. And some whipsaws and some roller coasters going through the rest of the day before ending up where we were at there. The Dow actually lost 409.4 US dollars over the weekend. So that is where we are at with that and what we see with that. Your gas prices in the Madison area did regulate back out. We've got an outlier of 330 on the east side, but 340 otherwise on the east side, 340 on the west side with an outlier of 360. So all the climbing that we just saw actually did come back and balance itself back out. We will see what happens as the summer continues to go on. And let's look at our finance article from IVD. Dow Jones rallies as Oracle pops an upgrade. Elon Musk gives us an advertisement through the magic of Investors Business Daily. Elon Musk's mock short call as Tesla stock gains from Michael Larkin. The Dow rallied as Microsoft rose amid a merger report. Tesla popped after CEO Elon Musk mocked a prominent investor for shorting the stock. Oracle jumped on an analyst call while it posted an earnings beat. Meanwhile, a trio of noteworthy names attempted breakouts. Intapp, WW Grainger, and Biogen all tested buy points. Treasury yield slipped. The 10-year yield fell 1 point to 3.74%, while the 2-year yield dipped 3 points to 4.57%. I can't believe our 2-year yield is at 4.5% still. The yield curve remains inverted. The bull market rally looks like it doesn't want to stop, which means Wall Street appears confident the Fed will not be delivering its 11th straight rate hike this week. Owanda senior market analyst Edward Moya said in a note to clients, which means watch for inflation to go. The Nasdaq handily outperformed other major indices as it closed up 1.5%. Broadcom and Airbnb were strong here, rising 6.3% and 5.7% respectively. The benchmark S&P also charged, rising 0.9% and closing at its highest level since April of 2022. Carnival sailed almost 13% higher after a pair of bullish Wall Street calls. Volume was higher on both the Nasdaq and the New York Stock Exchange, according to early data. This is a bullish sign. The S&P closed with mixed and an upside bias. Technology and consumer discretionary fared best, while utilities and energy were the worst performers. Small caps inch higher with the Russell 2000 up 0.4. Growth stocks excelled with the Innovator IBD ETF 50 rising 1.5%. So a few things going on this. A Dow industrial rally gained power. Heading into the close, it ended the day up 190 points. Microsoft ended the session up 1.6 after a Wall Street Journal report said the Federal Trade Commission is going to move to block its mooted acquisition of video game giant Activision Blizzard, which means that Microsoft is going to rise on the fact that Activision is currently in the news for Diablo 4, as people are coming together to buy that. I'm considering it, but I gotta make sure my graphics card will hold it. Citing a person familiar with the issue, the Wall Street Journal said the FTC will file an injunction in federal court to block the deal from going forward. It has already sued to prevent the merger, so we will see what happens with that, where that goes, and what we do on finance. Our layoffs today came from Grubhub, which used to be a service that I use, but Eat Street is way better at this point. Grubhub lays off 15% of its corporate workforce, or about 400 employees. From Rohan Goswami. I don't know how many drivers remain on the payroll, but the corporate workforce is now dropping. Food delivery platform Grubhub laid off about 400 employees, or about 15% of its corporate workforce, citing a need to maintain competitiveness, the company's CEO said in a message to employers on Monday. The company has struggled to capture the market share, lagging significantly compared with competitors such as Uber Eats and DoorDash, according to research from Bloomberg's Second Measure. Grubhub said it would offer employees a minimum of 16-week severance, but declined to comment on specific groups or positions that were affected. There is no doubt whatsoever that we have a solid foundation in place and an immense opportunity ahead of us, but it is also clear that we need to make some tough decisions in order to maintain our competitiveness, deliver the best possible service for diners and our other partners, and be successful for the long term, CEO Howard Migdal said in his memo. The one-time public company was acquired by the Dutch multinational JustEatTakeaway.com in 2021. The all-stock transaction valued Grubhub at $7.3 billion. Less than a year after the deal closed, Just Eat Takeaway said it was exploring the partial or full sale of Grubhub. A spokesperson for Grubhub did not immediately respond to a CNBC inquiry about whether the layoffs were connected to a potential sale process. So, if you work at Grubhub, sorry, but your job may be gone. 400 employees out the door at this point. Grubhub was, I liked Grubhub when I used it. It's not in as many markets as Eat Street. Like Eat Street, I can get anywhere, literally. Even in places that don't have a lot of delivery driving, Eat Street is there. Grubhub, not so much. Like, when I was working in Madison, I could get Grubhub there because you can get every kind of restaurant service there. But, like, when I stopped working there and started working closer to home, when I was working in Janesville and living in Berkeley, just outside of there, that's all you could get was Grubhub. There was literally nothing else around. So, I think that's part of the reason they're failing in these markets, too. Uber Eats just takes off their regular Uber business, so there's that. But with that, we move off of the finance. Thank you for sitting in with our finance today. And let's talk about Mr. Kaczynski. From NPC News. Unabomber Ted Kaczynski found dead in his prison cell. From Minivan Burke and the Associated Press, Ted Kaczynski, the man known as the Unabomber, who was serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole for a series of bombings across the U.S. that killed 3 people, was found dead in his North Carolina prison cell on Saturday. The FBI confirmed, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, not the FBI. The Federal Bureau of Prisons confirmed he was 81. Kaczynski, who was convicted for a series of bombings targeting scientists, was held in the North Carolina after being transferred in 2021 from a maximum security Colorado prison because of his declining health. Cause of death, at the time of this article, was not released. Kaczynski was serving time following his 1996 arrest at the Primitive Cabin, where he was living in western Montana. He pled guilty to setting 16 explosions that killed 3 people, injured 23 others, in various parts of the country between 1978 and 1995. The deadly homemade bombs that Kaczynski sent by mail, including an altitude-triggered explosion that went off as planned in an American Airlines flight, changed the way Americans sent packages and boarded airplanes. A 1995 threat to blow up a plane out of Los Angeles before the end of the July 4th weekend threw air travel and mail delivery into chaos. The Unabomber later claimed it was a prank. Oddly enough, there are actually there are a lot of invitations being sent out for his funeral, but people are too afraid to open them. The Harvard-trained mathematician had railed against the effects of advanced technology and led authorities on the nation's longest and costliest manhunt. The FBI dubbed him the Unabomber because his early targets seemed to be universities and airlines. In September of 1995, the Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness, in conjunction with the New York Times, a former newspaper, published his anti-technology manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future. The manifesto was printed at the urging of federal authorities. Why can't we get the Covenant one? I realize it was 30 years difference, but good God, why can't we get the Covenant one at this point? After the bomber said he would desist from terrorism if a national publication published his treatise. Oh, see, that's why. Because the Covenant shooter can't make that threat. Because he/she dead. That's why. The treatise led his brother David and David's wife Linda Patrick to recognize his writing and turn him into the FBI. Authorities in April of 1996 found Kaczynski outside Lincoln, Montana, in a 10x14 plywood and tar paper cabin where he'd been living since the 70s. It was filled with journals, a coded diary, explosive ingredients, and 2 completed bombs. Kaczynski hated the idea of being viewed as mentally ill, and during his trial tried to fire his attorneys when they wanted to mount an insanity defense. He eventually pled guilty rather than let his attorneys proceed. In his personal journals, released at the trial by the government at the request of the victims' families, Kaczynski described his motive as simply personal revenge. I often had fantasies of killing the kind of people I hated, i.e. government officials, police, computer scientists, the rowdy type of college students who left their beer cans in the arboretum, etc., etc., etc. That's a big span of people, by the way. But I can understand why so many libertarians like the guy. I mean, those two right there. I don't like that they like the guy, but I can understand where they're coming from. Kaczynski killed computer rental store owner Hugh Scruton, advertising executive Thomas Mosser, and timber industry lobbyist Gilbert Murray. California geneticist Charles Epstein and Yale University computer expert David Gellertner were maimed by bombs 2 days apart in June of 1993. Charming fellow, this one. But we do have an update on how he passed from the Associated Press. Unabomber Ted Kaczynski died by suicide in prison, medical center, Associated Press sources say. Unnamed, most likely. From Michael R. Sisak and Mike Balsamo and Jake Offenhartz. I was at my parents' house and listening to the Sunday shows. Not really watching because I don't care for them, but listening. And like the Unabomber got a 25-second spot on, I think it was Meet the Depressed on Sunday morning. Meanwhile, we've got a full 15-minute segment on the Trump indictment. Ted Kaczynski, known as the Unabomber, who carried out a 17-year bombing campaign that killed 3 people and injured 23 others, died by suicide. 4 people, unnamed, familiar with the matter, told the Associated Press. Kaczynski, who was 81 and suffering from late-stage cancer, was found unresponsive in his cell in the Federal Medical Center in Butner, North Carolina. Around 12:30 a.m. on Saturday, emergency responders performed CPR and revived him before he was transported to a hospital where he was pronounced dead later Saturday morning. The people told the Associated Press they were not authorized to publicly discuss Kaczynski's death and spoke to the Associated Press on the condition of anonymity. There's a lot of people out there that do that. And again, a big question here because they bring Epstein into this right away, who totally 100% killed himself, oh my gosh, on how that can continue to happen. Like, I'd be presuming that the guy's on suicide watch or something. That there's typically, this is coming from somebody who's familiar with the matter, there's typically a warning sign out on somebody who's supposed to be under Supermax supervision. Guys, how did you miss this? I don't know, but he's gone. So, we heard some of the history of Kaczynski. We know what happened with him, but he is gone. Let us talk about I-95. Section of heavily traveled I-95 collapses in Philly after tanker truck catches fire. From Ron Tott. An elevated section of I-95 collapsed early Sunday in Philadelphia after a tanker truck carrying flammable cargo caught fire, closing a heavily traveled segment of the East Coast Main North-South Highway indefinitely, authorities said. Transportation officials warned of extensive delays and street closures and urged drivers to avoid the area in the city's northeast corner. Officials said the tanker contained a petroleum product that may have been hundreds of gallons of gasoline. The fire took about an hour to get under control. If it was gasoline, I don't know if it would have taken an hour. It might have been diesel. The northbound lanes of I-95 are gone and the southbound lanes were compromised by heat from the fire, said Derek Bomer, battalion chief to the Philadelphia Fire Department. Runoff from the fire, or perhaps broken gas lines, caused an explosion underground, he added. Some kind of crash happened on a ramp underneath northbound I-95 around 6:15 a.m., said the State Department spokesperson Brad Rudolph, and northbound section above the fire collapsed quickly. The southbound lanes were heavily damaged, and we are assessing that now, Rudolph said. Josh Shapiro, who said Sunday evening he planned to issue a disaster declaration to speed federal funds, said at least one vehicle was still trapped beneath the collapsed roadway. We're still working to identify any individual or individuals who may have been caught in the fire and the collapse, he said. There were no immediate reports of injuries. That'll change in another story, by the way. Video from the scene showed a massive concrete slab had fallen from I-95 onto the road below, Shapiro said. His flight over the area showed just a remarkable devastation. I found myself thanking the Lord that no motorists who were on I-95 were injured or died, he said. Mark Vucetti, a retired Philly police sergeant, said he was driving south towards the city's airport when he noticed thick black smoke rising over the highway. As he passed the fire, the road beneath it began to dip, creating a noticeable depression that was visible in the video he took at the scene, he said. He saw traffic in his rear view had come to a halt soon after the northbound lanes of the highway crumbled. It was crazy timing, Vucetti said. For it to buckle and collapse that quickly is pretty remarkable. Yeah, and some of the people who are talking about this have spent exorbitant amounts of time saying that jet fuel can't melt steel beams. The collapsed section of I-95 was part of a $212 million reconstruction project that wrapped up 4 years ago. Rudolph said there was no immediate time frame for the reopening of the highway, but officials would consider a fill-in situation or a temporary structure to accelerate the effort, he said. Motorists were sent on a 43-mile detour, which was going better than it should do on a weekday, Rudolph said. The fact that the collapse happened on a Sunday helped ease the congestion, but he expected traffic to back up significantly on all the detour areas. Pennsylvania Transportation Secretary Michael Carroll said the I-95 segment carries roughly 160,000 vehicles per day and was likely the busiest interstate in Pennsylvania. He said work would continue through the night to remove the collapsed section as rapidly as possible. Yeah, it's interesting, by the way, the idea that of what this, why this one is so busy. Like, I've been on I-75 in Pennsylvania before, and like, there was no traffic on 75. It's still 2-lane all the way up through the mountains and down through the mountains. I think 75 stays 2 lanes until it gets to the big interchange for Baltimore, which I think goes on to 95. I would have to look at the map again. We'll look at that in just a second, because I'm going to bring up the map. So let's have a look at what's happening here. So 95 coming up through the northeast corner should maybe it wasn't. Maybe it won't. Tell me where this is supposed to be. Let's have a look, see if we can find a landmark for it. Extensive delays. What's the cross? Does it say? Does not say what the cross is. But by they say the northeast part, it should be somewhere in this area then. So on all the bridges that go towards New Jersey. Which, I mean, you're going along the Delaware River at that point too. So we've got all the gawkers there. We'll see if we can find a cross later on. But yeah, 95 still comes down, goes through, looks like it kisses Delaware for just a second before going, yeah, down into Baltimore. And then I believe Let me see. When I came through Pennsylvania. See if we can figure this out, because I came out of Ohio. I think I came on 90. It was 76, not 75. That's why I'm confused. Because I came probably around Pittsburgh, down in Harrisburg. I don't know. I'd have to look more at the interchanges. No, it must have been the interchange for 70 down into 270 going into DC, because that's where I was headed. Was DC. I don't know. I'm trying to do this right all off on a whim, off memory, from a place that I really only went through at night, but regardless, that's our map. From the USA Today, where's the I-95 collapse? Maps show where it happened and how traffic is affected. So we actually might get some maps here. From Jim Sargent, Janet Lorkey, Javier Zaracina, and Ramon Padilla. Josh Shapiro announced Monday he issued a disaster declaration to immediately draw down federal funds and move quickly to begin the repair of the reconstruction process, a heavily traveled section of I-95 that collapsed Sunday morning in northeast Philly. I-95 is a critical roadway that supports our economy and plays an important role in folks' everyday lives, Shapiro said on Sunday. A tanker truck caught on fire under a section of I-95 just after 0600 on Sunday. The northbound section collapsed, but the southbound span has also been deemed unsafe. Yeah, probably for good reason. Office of Emergency Management officials said. So, where is 95 located? The nearly 1,917-mile interstate runs from Miami through Maine to Canada. 51 of those miles are in Philadelphia area, where it runs parallel to the Delaware River. Okay, so we've got an idea where this is now. Tacony, the collapsed portion, carries about 160,000 cars daily, says Mike Carroll. And it looks like you're right outside of residential area too, unfortunately. For people who are going back north, it looks like easy and... no, because any exit that they have going off of here is going to go under where it happened. It looks like it was the exit. Going on to Cotman Avenue, which is where it all went. So you're probably looking maybe not being able to use a good section here entirely and having to go up Route 1 instead. This is going to be a pain. I was thinking 76, not 75. That's why. Black smoke engulfed a portion of I-95 Sunday morning in Philly, while the traffic on the northbound lane was halted by a collapsed bridge. Yeah, look at that. They're going all the way around up here. It's like they actually might have to go into Jersey to get around. That's going to be a pain. Plus paying the toll on the Jersey Turnpike too. Alright. Now some of the reaction to this here. Larry Hein. People from every political perspective in America use I-95, but only one party will defend it. What does a Republican do when they see roads like this? They steal our tax dollars and give it to billionaires. Then they demand spending cuts. But Biden and Democrats gave us the Infrastructure and Investment and Jobs Act. The majority of the GOP fought him every step of the way. Well, this had nothing to do with going and redoing infrastructure. This section of road, as we just found out, was just done a couple years ago. Getting Republicans out is essential for our roads, for our country, for our lives. Larry Hine, or however the hell you pronounce it, revealing that he is, in fact, a moron. Alright, we've got a body recovered from Philadelphia 10. Body recovered after burning tanker truck causes collapse in I-95. From Hayden Mittman and David Chang. A body was recovered from the rubble a day after the tanker truck caused a portion of I-95 to collapse in northeast Philly, leading to an emergency declaration from Pennsylvania's governor. We know that. The vehicle... Oh, I guess it was gasoline. I wouldn't think that gasoline would have burned that long. Gasoline's usually, even if you have 8,500 gallons, is a flash in the pan kind of thing. Tanker truck lost control while navigating a turn at the end of the exit. Vehicle was carrying 8,500 gallons of gasoline, then turned on its side before it ruptured and eventually exploded, officials said. At about 2 p.m. Monday, a spokesperson for Pennsylvania State Police said remains had been pulled out of the rubble, but said the body has not yet been positively identified. Officials said the remains had been turned over to the Philadelphia County Medical Examiner in the coroner's office. A representative for the Pennsylvania State Police said the officials are waiting for confirmation before providing any other details. In a visit to the site on Sunday, Shapiro noted the reconstruction efforts will likely take some number of months. Oh yeah, easily. You might not get this done this summer. Let's see. We've got the identifier now. And this will be our last one talking about this from Fox 29. I-95 collapse, truck driver involved in tanker crash identified by family. Family members have identified a man they say was driving the tanker truck that crashed and burst into flames, eventually leaving parts of I-95 completely destroyed Sunday morning. Nathaniel Moody, 53, has been identified by family members as the driver of the truck. Family members say the officials informed them the human remains were recovered at the site of the crash and collapse, but they have not yet been positively identified. Moody's family described him as a husband, father, and experienced driver with more than 10 years behind the wheel. They say he was transporting fuel for the company in Pennsauken, New Jersey at the time of the crash. Extreme heat from the fire caused the overpass in the northbound side to completely collapse, and also compromising the southbound portion of the highway. So, jet fuel may not be able to melt steel beams, but gasoline apparently can. No injuries have been reported to people on the interstate at the time, despite several videos showing cars driving past the fire prior to the collapse. Yeah, that is a miracle. That is a full-on miracle. So, 95. Unfortunately, for some of you guys in Pennsylvania, you're going to have to go to Jersey. I know, it sucks. It blows. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear it. But, you know, I have no other words for that. F in the chat for the driver, because it looks like this was legitimately an accident. Much love to our friends who wanted to go back out and politicize this and turn this into a Republican versus Democrat thing. Because that's a big part of the reason that this story made the news on the stack today, was the reaction to it. So, Godspeed to the family. Sorry that you, for your loss. And we have got to move on, and we've got to talk about the Donald. And what would a good story about a Donald Trump indictment be without Truth Social involved? From the Daily Wire. I'm sorry, this isn't Truth Social. This is his speech. Department of Injustice. Trump takes aim at Biden DOJ in first post-indictment speech. From Leaf LeMahieu. Former President Trump said on Saturday that the deep state was coming after him and his supporters in his first speech since being indicted on federal charges relating to his handling of classified documents. Trump spoke openly about the 37-count indictment to about 2,000 Republicans gathered in Columbus, Georgia. At the state Republican conference, the 2024 presidential candidate is accused of the willful retention of national defense information, corruptly concealing documents or records, and making false statements. False statements! I only make true statements. Greatest president out there. I only make true statements. Nothing more, nothing less. Nobody took a video of that speech, did they? The ridiculous and baseless indictment of me by the Biden admin's weaponized Department of Injustice will go down as among the most horrific abuses of power in the history of our government, Trump said. Many people have said that. Democrats have even said it. Vicious persecution is a travesty of justice. In the end, they're not coming after me, they're coming after you. And I'm just standing in their way, he said, while Joe Biden furiously scribbled out notes because, hey man, they're not coming after me, man. They're coming after you, and I'm gonna protect you from evil MAGA voters. And this is some good stuff. Trump, talk some more, man. Come on, man. Something else that Biden's plagiarized in his life. Trump said he's been engaged in an epic struggle with sinister forces within the country, including the globalists, Marxists, and rhinos. Jack Smith said that Trump would get a speedy trial. He is scheduled to appear before Eileen Cannon in the Southern District of Florida on Tuesday. Trump said the indictment on federal charges, alongside the charges he faces in New York over business records, are examples of left using the FBI, DOJ, and local district attorneys to interfere in the election. These criminals cannot be rewarded. They must be defeated, Trump said, referring to officials who have brought charges against him. Trump also took aim at President Biden in a speech over inflation, foreign policy, and energy prices. He pointed to Biden's document scandal after reports surfaced that he improperly took documents from the White House when he served as vice president. Prominent Georgia officials like Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger were not in attendance at the meeting, saying they were not invited. Georgia Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones attended the meeting, which was held at the Columbus Convention and Trade Center. The former president is slated to give a speech in North Carolina today. So, that's what we have for that. This was, not today anymore. This was on June 10th, so that was Saturday. But CNN has got the exclusive! Oh, scoop! Donald Trump admits on tape that he didn't declassify secret information. Nobody's ever heard the tape except for, presumably, Jack Smith, who made a transcription of it that he turned over to the grand jury. Nobody else in the world has ever heard the tape, but just trust us, it exists. From Paula Reed and Jeremy Herb. That's always fun, too, by the way. I know that Castor hates Twitter. But it's fun to go on there when these people are coming. He's going to jail. He had nuclear secrets. He's on tape admitting that he waved them around and showed them to people. Okay. Link me an audio of the tape. I'd like to hear this. I want to hear the same thing you did. Link me an audio of the tape. Well, it's in the indictment. The tape's not there. I read the indictment cover to cover. There's no tape in the indictment. There's no audio in the indictment. Well, it says right in the indictment that he said it on the tape. Okay, well, link me the audio of the tape. Oh, by the way, can you show me an image of one of these documents since you know exactly what was in one of them? Or any of them? Or all of them? Show me one of these documents. They can't do it. I don't know if this whole thing is a hoax or not. All I know is it involves a tape that nobody can hear because it's classified, and documents that nobody can see because they're classified, so just trust us, bro. Former President Trump acknowledged on tape in a 2021 meeting that he had retained secret military information that he had not declassified, according to a transcript of the audio recording obtained by CNN. We're going to talk more about the tape later on, because I had one that I picked up like right when we got started. I think I had already hit the live button when I picked up the article. Because apparently Chuck Grassley says there are 17 tapes of Biden in a compromising position. And I haven't read the articles because I was live when I found them. But apparently there are 17 tapes out there of Biden receiving the materials. And it just makes me laugh when now the Democrats are saying, well, produce the tape then. If you're so sure Biden took the bribe, produce the tape. Okay, well, produce the Trump tape then. You mook. As president, I could have declassified, but now I can't, Trump says, according to the transcript. CNN obtained a transcript of the portion of the meeting where Trump is discussing classified Pentagon documents about attacking Iran, and the audio recording, which CNN previously reported was obtained by prosecutors. Trump says he did not declassify the document he's referencing, according to the transcript. Publicly, Trump has claimed that all the documents he brought with him to his Florida residence were declassified, while he's railed against the special counsel's investigation as a political witch hunt, attempting to interfere with his 2024 presidential campaign. Okay, play the tape. The transcript of the audio recording suggests that Trump is showing the document he's discussing to those in the room. Several sources have told CNN the recording captures the sound of papers rustling, unnamed, of course, as if Trump was waving the document around, though it's not clear if it was the actual Iran document. Secret. This is secret information. Look at this, Trump said at one point, according to the transcript. This was done by the military and given to me. In a way of talking that I've never, ever heard Trump talk. Like, again, when I read this transcript, and I said the same thing when I finally sat down and read when I read the full indictment over the weekend. This doesn't sound like, when I got to the transcript part, this doesn't sound like Donald Trump. This sounds like the caricature of Donald Trump that the left has made of Donald Trump. Trump was complaining in the meeting about the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Mark Milley. The meeting occurred shortly after the New Yorker published a story by Susan Glasser detailing how, in the final days of Trump's presidency, Milley instructed the Joint Chiefs to ensure Trump issued no illegal orders and that he be informed if there was any concern, which was treason, by the way. Well, with Milley, let me see. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't that amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look, this was him, Trump says, according to the transcript. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him. And we looked at some. This was him. This. I have listened to no less than 63 Trump speeches from the time he came down the escalator until now. Donald John Trump has never spoken like this. Ever. And again, I said the same thing when I read it in the indictment. Again, this sounds like a caricature of what the left thinks that Donald Trump is. It sounds like almost they pieced together the script of a Ben Garrison cartoon. No, not Ben Garrison cartoon, because Ben Garrison likes Trump, but like the political cartoons that you see in the opinion section of the newspaper, if people actually use the opinion section of the newspaper still. Trump continues. All sorts of stuff. Pages long. Look, wait a minute. Let's see here. I just found. Isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know. Except it's like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. Look at this. Again, don't buy it. I don't. From the Blaze, Trump attorney says former president will not accept plea deal because it would be an admission of guilt. From Michelle Blood. One of the former president's attorneys says taking a plea deal in the classified documents case will not happen. You plea when you've done something wrong or when you have no shot, Trump attorney Alina Habba told Fox News Sunday's host Shannon Bream in an exclusive interview that she should not be giving, by the way. I understand the bravado about this, but Alina, you're an attorney. You're supposed to know the value of shut the hell up. That's an admission of guilt. He would never admit guilt. Habba represented Trump in the recent case in which he was found liable for the sexual abuse and defamation of E. Jean Carroll, as the Blaze reported on May 9th. Habba does not represent Trump in the federal documents probe case. So she really needs to shut up. Habba went on to say there was nothing wrong with Trump declassifying documents, taking documents with him, and negotiating with the National Archives and Records Administration. This is completely politically motivated. It's election interference at its best by a political opponent. Habba also said, adding that an indictment is a one-sided document. The only thing that was wrong was the raid on his home and the complete dual-tier system of justice that we're seeing here. Habba went on to say that while President Trump can use the Presidential Records Act as a defense, Biden and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton cannot. I don't think he's thinking of it that way, Habba said when Bream asked if he thought of decades in jail had yet sunk in for Trump were he to be convicted. Habba declined to say whether Trump would prefer to push any trial past the 2024 election, characterizing the inquiry as a strategy question which was internal. She also said they would make that determination very soon. One of the things to talk about with this too, because they tell us that there were 103 documents. And when they show us the evidence, so-called, that he just left all the documents strewn out all over the Mar-a-Lago where people could go, there are just stacks beyond stacks. Dozens, if not maybe 100 boxes in the bathroom, in the open area, etc., etc., etc. How many boxes does it take to house 100 documents? That's propagandistic, by the way. That is meant to sway a jury and the opinion of the American people. The items are things that he has a right to take, Habba said of the widely circulated photo of a box of material spilled out onto the floor. She described the contents as the box's mementos, such as newspaper articles and photographs. There's context to everything, and that context will be brought out by the defense. We have not had an opportunity to give our side, Habba said, which is accurate, by the way. A lot of what she is saying is accurate, like the indictment, as she said. It's a one-sided document. It is the prosecution laying all their evidence at the feet of the grand jury and saying, hey, can we go forward with this? There has been no defense. It's the same as the kangaroo court that we had for the January 6th committee. It was one-sided evidence. It's completely disallowed to have countervailing evidence. You need something to read in the crapper, says Mogwai. Thank you, Mogwai. But again, I don't think that this Alina Habba needs to be talking about this because she's not on the case. And she doesn't need to be giving strategy over to the people who are doing the persecution. Another one from CNN. Archived thanks to one Mr. Midget B over in the Discord. Opinion. Op-ed. The opinions expressed in this article are the opinions of one Dean Obadala, not necessarily the opinions of CNN, Turns Page Productions, Contemporary, or your host, J. Edgar. These are only opinions, but let's read. The bogus Hillary Clinton excuse Republicans are using to defend Trump. Yeah, that's actually something that needs to stop. The whataboutism needs to stop because it actually isn't helping. In fact, it's giving the Krappensteins the attack line of, oh, well, they all know what he did is wrong, but all they can do is compare it to the other person. I have yet to see any evidence that he's actually done anything wrong, so there's that. Because nobody can show me a single document that came out of this. Some Republicans love to spout whataboutisms to defend against any allegations of wrongdoing by former President Trump. The latest example comes after the federal indictment was unsealed Friday, charging the president with 37 criminal counts over his handling of classified documents after leaving office, including a violation of parts of the Espionage Act. He's a spy! These Republicans are defending the twice impeached former president. I know this is an op-ed, but this is over the top. By pointing to Hillary Clinton not being charged over her handling classified information while she was using a private email server when she was Secretary of State. For example, Ron DeSantis, a 2024 GOP presidential candidate, stated Friday, Hillary in the emails adding, is there a different standard for Democrat, Secretary of State, versus a former Republican president? And Lindsey Graham of South Carolina offered a similar defense on Sunday on ABC's invoking Clinton's emails, which we will be watching, by the way. By comparing Trump's actions to Clinton's is akin to comparing a peaceful protest to the January 6, 2021 attack by Trump supporters. You guys remember the scene in Big Bang where Penny was trying to learn physics from Sheldon, which was probably not an intelligent move? And she started crying, and when Sheldon asked why, she said, "'Cause I'm stupid." And Sheldon said, and I quote, "Well, that's no reason to cry. One cries because one is sad. For example, I cry because other people are stupid, and that makes me sad." I read that paragraph right here, and I want to cry because other people are stupid. And that makes me sad. True, some Republican officials have tried to rewrite the January 6th insurrection as being a normal tourist visit. But just as we should reject that attempt, we should dismiss any effort to equate what Trump is accusing of doing with Clinton's conduct. Well, that's actually true because it's apples to oranges. Hillary Clinton deleted thousands of emails, allegedly. Now, again, it's not something that I've ever seen, but we're going to take both sides at face value. To avoid getting caught for dereliction of duty, thus disqualifying her as president. Not only that, but taking classified documents in and out of an unsecured server, many of which were damning to her, allegedly. And using software programs and hammers to make sure that the evidence could never be found. The Donald took a series of classified documents home. There's no evidence that he had any intent to them. There's no evidence that he ever sold them. There's very little evidence, if any, that he possibly showed them to other people, if he even had them in the first place. I have yet to see a single document. And again, I will hold that very same standard to Clinton. But no matter what it is that James Comey said, if you are going out of your way to destroy devices, and not just delete emails on a server, but go through it with BleachBit to make sure that it can never be recovered, that is acting with malice. But again, that is going to the assumption that Mr. Trump actually did something wrong, which again, I have yet to see any evidence of. So yes, it is stupid to compare the two things, but not for the reasons that Dean Obeidallah is trying to tell you they are. Speaking of Lindsey Graham, Lindsey Graham defends Trump over federal indictment. Very similar to what Hillary Clinton did. You stupid, stupid man. From Daily Wire News. I got a clip of this, but we might go back and look at the full thing too. Lindsey Graham defended former President Trump during an interview on Sunday while discussing the federal indictment that was unsealed last week, charging the president with 37 felony counts. Graham, who endorsed Trump in the 2024 presidential race, gave his defense of Trump on an interview with ABC News' This Week with George Snuffleupagus. Well, sugar, here's what I believe. We live in America where if you're the Democratic candidate for president, Hillary Clinton's Secretary of State, you can set up that private server in your basement. Maybe it'd be in a closet, the one that I've not come out of yet. To conduct government business, Graham said before being cut off by Snuffleupagus, who served as the press secretary for former President Bill Clinton. I'm trying to answer that question from a Republican point of view, which I don't actually have, Graham fired back. You may not be acceptable on this show. Yes, I don't like what President Trump did in certain aspects. I don't like what Biden had classified information in the garage. I don't like that Pence carelessly took classified information. I don't like any of that, sugar. But what I don't like is a system in America where that Secretary of State, who's a Democratic candidate for president, has people take hammer to social media devices and break them apart, apply bleach bit to a hard drive to erase emails, and allow classified information to get on a felon's computer. That is that Anthony Weiner, and I bet you he's got a terrible wiener too. I don't even want to think about Anthony Weiner's wiener. You haven't even mentioned that. So let's listen. First, Rupar saying that Graham is having issue. He's going through some things. So let's listen to that first.
Donald Trump has said repeatedly that he did nothing wrong. Do you believe that?
Well, here's what I believe. We live in an America where if you're the Democratic candidate for president, Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, you can set up a private server in your basement to conduct government business. And when an investigation is had about your activity... No, let me finish.
But you didn't answer the question.
That was ridiculous. Well, yeah, I'm trying to answer the question from a Republican point of view. That may not be acceptable on this show. Yeah.
Donald Trump has said repeatedly that he did nothing wrong. Do you believe that?
All right. So there's that. We're going to see if there's any stretch off of that.
I'm going to enforce all laws concerning the protection.
I believe we live in an America where...
We are joined now by Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, who's endorsed Donald Trump for president in 2024. Senator Graham, thank you for joining us this morning. Donald Trump has said repeatedly that he did nothing wrong. Do you believe that?
Well, here's what I believe. We live in an America where if you're the Democratic candidate for president, Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, you can set up a private server in your basement to conduct government business. And when an investigation is had about your activity... No, let me finish.
But you didn't answer the question.
That was ridiculous. Well, yeah, I'm trying to answer the question from a Republican point of view. That may not be acceptable on this show. Yes, I don't like what President Trump did in certain aspects. I don't like that Joe Biden had classified information on the garage. I don't like that Mike Pence carelessly took classified information. I don't like any of that. But what I don't like is a system in America where the Secretary of State, who's a Democratic candidate for president, has people take a hammer to social media devices and break them apart, apply bleach bit to a hard drive to erase emails, allow classified information to get on a felon's computer, Anthony Weiner, You haven't even mentioned that. Most Republicans believe we live in a country where Hillary Clinton did very similar things and nothing happened to her. President Trump will have his day in court, but espionage charges are absolutely ridiculous. Whether you like Trump or not, he did not commit espionage. He did not disseminate, leak, or provide information to a foreign power or to a news organization to damage this country. He is not a spy. He's overcharged. Did he do things wrong? Yes, he may have. He will be tried about that, but Hillary Clinton wasn't. Your old boss committed perjury in a civil lawsuit, lost his law license, obstructed justice in a dozen ways, and he didn't get prosecuted. I know,
and he was impeached.
Well,
Senator, okay,
he was impeached, but he wasn't prosecuted.
You've made your point, but you also said something that I believe is not true based on what's in the indictment. You said that he did not disseminate any of this information. In fact, there's an audio tape in the indictment where he's talking about the secret information, saying he knows it's secret, knows it's not declassified.
Okay, let's talk about that. I don't know what happened. I haven't heard the audio, but look at who's
Nobody's heard the audio.
Been charged under Espionage Act. Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, Chelsea Manning. People who turn over classified information to news organizations to hurt the country or provide it to a foreign power. That did not happen here. Donald Trump, you may hate his guts, but he is not a spy. He did not commit espionage. What he did is very similar, in my view, to what Hillary Clinton did.
And he just goes back and repeats himself. So, they're going to keep trying that entire line, but it's not similar in any way. Let's talk Bill Barr. More video here from CNN. Look, he's not playing a victim here. Bill Barr rebuts Trump's claims about the DOJ indictment. Let's listen to the former Attorney General of the United States, who should know more about the Constitution than he lets on here. Oh.
This idea of presenting.
Today, Trump's former U.S. Attorney General is calling Trump's claims of a witch hunt ridiculous. Bill Barr says the indictment is very damning and described the government's case against Trump as solid.
And this idea of presenting Trump as a victim here, a victim of a witch hunt, is ridiculous. Yes, he's been a victim in the past. Yes, his adversaries have obsessively pursued him with phony claims, and I've been at his side defending against them when he is a victim. But this is much different. He's not a victim here. He was totally wrong that he had the right to have those documents. Those documents are among the most sensitive secrets that the country has. They have to be in the custody of the archivist. He had no right to maintain them and retain them. And he kept them in a way at Mar-a-Lago that anyone who really cares about national security, their stomach would churn at it.
Yeah, it's a striking contrast to what you were hearing from.
How did he store them? Again, I mean, we look at the pictures and we see dozens of boxes, which is a lot more. Like a banker's box can hold several hundred documents. How many banker's boxes do you actually need to hold 103 documents? Let's be realistic about this. From Politico, Bill Barr rips Trump over defense and secret documents. From David Cohen, former AG Bill Barr attacked the former president for his rationale when it came to possession of top secret material, saying there's no way Trump had the right to retain some of the material alleged to be in his possession. Okay, again, I know I'm going to beat this horse to death, but show me a document. Battle plans for an attack on another country or Defense Department documents about its capabilities are in no universe Donald J. Trump's personal documents. There are the government's documents, Barr said on Fox News Sunday, discussing last week's 37-count indictment. The former president has said repeatedly that he has the right to declassify and retain any documents from his 4 years in the White House. Barr, who served in the Trump admin, said there was no distinction to be made between the president's personal documents, such as notes taken at a meeting, and very sensitive documents prepared by the government agencies for the purpose of government action. He also said that almost anyone else in the country would have returned the documents if asked. Well, look, this particular episode of trying to retrieve these documents, the government acted responsibly by telling him to put an extra lock on the door and then kicking the goddamn door in. And it was Donald J. Trump who acted irresponsibly. The former AG also distinguished between Trump's handling of documents and the processes that other former presidents have used in handling the turnover of sensitive documents at the end of their terms, saying that they had used secure and orderly procedures. In differentiating this investigation from others that examined Trump's conduct, Barr said that he had defended Trump in the past, including in response to Alvin Bragg's recent indictment in New York, but this case was different. This idea of presenting Trump as the victim here, a victim of a witch hunt, is ridiculous. Yes, he's been the victim in the past. Yes, his adversaries have obsessively pursued him with phony claims. I've been at his side defending him when he is the victim, but this is much different. He's not the victim here. He was totally wrong, and he had the right to these documents. These documents are among the most sensitive secrets this country's had. Okay, what are they? Have you seen them, Bill Barr? Have you seen the documents? I'm going to go out on a limb and say no. Pat Sajak is retiring? Yeah. And Van is going to stay on. That lady stayed the same age for 30 years. I got a secret for you on Van is staying the same age for 30 years. There are large portions of that woman's body that are under the age of 18. Just saying. From the USA Today, Barr predicts trouble for Trump over indictment. If even half of it is true, then he's toast. From Marina Pitovsky. Former AG Barr called the indictment against former President Trump over his handling of classified documents damning, saying the former president's actions were totally wrong. Barr said he was shocked by the degree of sensitivity of these documents and how many there were, frankly. The government's agenda was to protect those documents, and get them out, and I think it was perfectly appropriate to do that. It was the right thing to do, Barr said. We have to wait and see what the defense says and what proves to be true. Doesn't sound like you're waiting and seeing very much there, Billy. But he added, if even half of it's true, then he's toast. Trump and one of his staffers, valet Walt Nauta, have been charged with dozens of counts of allegedly violating federal statutes on the handling of classified documents after Trump left the White House. The 44-page indictment was unsealed last week, and Trump was charged with suggesting his lawyers falsely tell the FBI and grand jury that he didn't have the classified documents. Trump is also accused of showing the documents to guests at the Trump National Golf Course in Bedminster, among other allegations. It's a very detailed indictment, and it's very damning, Barr said on Sunday. And this idea that presenting Trump as a victim here, as a victim of a witch hunt, is ridiculous. Yeah, we read that one already. Again, I need to see a document. I need to see something, anything, that can be presented as evidence. That is one of the hardest parts, and I talked about this on Friday too, one of the hardest parts of pushing this. I said this all the way back when they first raided the Mar-a-Lago on this channel. One of the hardest parts of this entire fiasco is going to be getting it in front of a trial jury who most likely isn't going to have the classification and the clearance to see these documents. So, that's where we're at with that. Here's some more Bill Barr from Fox News Sunday.
This idea that the president has complete authority to declare any document personal is obvious. It's facially ridiculous. That opinion had to do with the distinction between official records, which are records prepared by government agencies for the purpose of government action, and personal documents as opposed to official documents, which are things prepared by the president, such as a diary or notes, which are not used in the government's deliberations. And yes, as to the second class, stuff that the president himself generates, the president has some discretion. But these are official documents. It's inarguable.
For having been the AG twice, you sure don't know a lot about constitutional law, Bill Barr. Styx has pointed this out on numerous occasions, that you almost have to, and now after the fact is a little bit of a gray area, but you almost have to be able to declassify on a whim, because that's how you perform diplomacy. If you're sitting here having a discussion with somebody, and then you come back up and say, oh, okay, hold on, we gotta hold this thought, I gotta go on for another hour, because I have to get a subpoena, I have to go through, fill out 17 forms, so I can discuss this with you, so it's declassified. The head of state is going to laugh in his face. And again, I need to see some evidence that there's actually a battle plan here. Something, anything. I mean, I'm supposed to sit here and believe that the government would never lie to us, right? MK Ultra, Ruby Ridge, Waco. I'm totally supposed to believe that the government will never lie to us at all. 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Mask will protect you. Wear 2 masks. Yeah, I'm totally supposed to believe this. Alright, another one from The Wire. Now we do some of the reaction. Slav, got this pig! Enraged Trump fumes at Bill Barr after ex-AG brands indictment damning. Which is probably not the best look for the position that you're in. Like, I just completely dismantled Barr's argument without calling him a bad name. Former President Trump raged at his former AG over the weekend after Barr gave a brutal assessment of the 37-count indictment. Trump first responded by writing on social media, Truth social media, of course. Virtually everyone is saying that the indictment is about election interference and should not have been brought except Bill Barr, a disgruntled former employee, and lazy AG who is weak and totally ineffective. He doesn't mean what it's saying, it's just, and the random caps come out, misinformation, Trump wrote. Barr's doing it because he hates Trump for firing him. He was deathly afraid the radical left when they said they would impeach him. He knows the indictment is bullshit. Turn off Fox News when that gutless pig is on. Barr said during the interview that Russiagate hoax was created to knock Trump off with a false claim, but cautioned that this case was very different. Yeah, that's probably not the best look. I mean, there's a reason that I don't support attempt number 3 by Trump. I can still get behind it and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't put our political enemies in prison without ever wanting that man to be in the White House again. Mr. Scott says she probably sleeps with an IV drip of aborted fetal. That actually, I think I can get away with that on YouTube. The hard part on that one, what Mr. Scott said, is I don't think I can do that on Twitch. From every baby in the 30-mile radius in LA. But hey, it worked. And Mogwai says, I can't top that and still be TOS friendly. Mogwai says, Bill Barr's the old effer that won't give you back the football in his backyard. And Mr. Scott says, I should write that down for my stand-up comedy routine. Now, you know what Bill Barr is? You know that? It's not the old effer that keeps the football. You remember the scene in about the middle of Back to the Future? When I think it was when they first showed young Biff. No, it wasn't when they first showed young Biff. It was when they first showed young Biff in Back to the Future 2 when he's walking around and the kids come and tell him to give him back their ball and he tosses it on the roof. That's what Bill Barr is in this situation. But still, not a good look from the Donald. But he is going to stay in the race. From Politico, Trump vows to stay in the race even if he is convicted. From Alex Isenstadt, Donald Trump vowed Saturday to continue running for president even if he were to be convicted. I'll never leave, Trump said in an interview aboard his plane. Look, if I would have left, I would have had a prior to the original race in 2016. That was a rough one. In theory, that was not doable. Trump is not legally prohibited from running for president from prison or as a convicted felon, but such a bid would nevertheless provide a massive stress test for the country's political and legal systems. The former president leveled harsh criticisms at Jack Smith and argued the case against him was politically motivated and flimsy. These are thugs and degenerates who are after me, he said. And the oddest part of this is, I think Silent Caster was right on Friday. And I've talked to some other people who've said this too. If he dropped out of the race right now, the charges would go away. The charges would be dropped. I promise you. If he came out onto the stage and said, you know what, I'm looking at the charges here, and it's going to make it very hard to get elected with independents, and I think you'd be better served with Ron DeSanctimonious. So I'm going to bow out. I'm going to give my endorsement to Ron. Great guy. Best guy. I said some things, but he's the best guy. This case would be dropped the next day. Giuliani wins, and Rudy Giuliani versus Bill Barr, MMA rules. Mogwai says Giuliani wins after Barr slips on the melting hair dye emitted from Giuliani. This is an interesting one. I don't know if this is necessarily true, but this is Nancy Mace talking over the Daily Wire. President Biden wants to give Trump death sentence for documents. GOP rep says from Ben Whitehead. According to Nancy Mace of South Carolina, President Biden wants to give former President Trump a death sentence over the accusations that he mishandled classified documents. That's part of the reason they're doing the Espionage Act, by the way. During an appearance on Sunday Morning Futures with Maria Bartiromo, Mace criticized the two-tier justice system, where she argues other politicians, including Biden and Hillary and Pence, are held to different standards than Trump. Every time the Oversight Committee has evidence of corruption, bribery, and money laundering on the Biden family, they indict Trump, Mace said. Biden wants to give Trump the death sentence for the documents. He's facing hundreds of years for mishandling documents, and they want him to die in jail. Most of America sees this for what it is. It's weaponizing the executive branch to take out your political enemies. Mace then referenced Clinton, who said she's bragging about the two-tier justice system. Yeah, probably. That's probably a brag right there. And even raising money off it from promoting a But Her Emails hat on Twitter. Mace also criticized Biden and Pence for their handling of classified documents. Mace also said the same day the Oversight Committee accessed suspicious activity reports on alleged Biden family corruption. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg indicted Trump Likewise, she said the same day the committee got access to the 1023 form allegedly showed bribery between the president and his son in Ukraine, Trump was indicted the second time. I remember that there was something that was going on during the Bragg one. I couldn't remember what it was. But it was the suspicious activity report. So we'll see what happens with that and where that goes. We've got Feds. The title of the show was Feds today, so we've got some reaction to people who are probably gathering outside of Miami right now. By the way, do not go to Miami. Do not, for any reason at all, go to Miami right now. Stay far, far away. Because you're going to go to Miami, peacefully protest, and then somebody's going to come up and whisper in your ear and say, we need to make this worse than January 6th. Here's a brick. Here's a sharpened flagpole. Here's some bear mace. Go let these people know what you think. Hey, look at all the rest of these people. Look at what they're doing already. Trump supporter Pat speaks out outside the Trump National Doral, Miami, where former President Trump is expected to arrive for his second indictment. January 6th is going to look like a playground. All we need is an order, and we are ready. Thud, 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 thud. Let's watch.
A lot of my family blood spilled for this country. I'm not going to let it go to waste. I'm not. I refuse. I did 19 years here as a federal agent in Dade County.
Oh, well, what a coincidence. He admits to being a Fed, too.
I'm just not going to let this country go to waste. And right now it's going to waste. Well, if he gets indoctrinated, January 6th is going to look like a playground. It's going to look like a playground. From the inside voices that I hear from all the militias and everything else, it's going to be a playground. But if they want to fight, bring it. I mean, I watched Kamala Harris in Orlando. I watched Antifa throw bottles, spit on my child, throw stuff at us. They told us to refrain ourselves. Really? Okay. But it is what it is, you know. This country's so left right now, but we got to bring it back to the right. We got to get right on the right path. We got to bring everything back. If we don't, we're going to crumble. We're going to be a third world nation. You know? We have to stand up for that flag. We have to stand up for our beliefs. And we got to put God back in this country. If we forget about him, he's going to forget about us. And right now we're forgetting him and we're forgetting Israel. We forget both of those. Read your Bible.
Oh, jeez.
Read your Bible. Because there's a lot of boys like me that are ready. All we need is an order. We're ready. I believe everything that indictment said, but the proof is in the pudding.
Don't go to Miami. Stay away from Miami. There are so many federal police, Capitol Police, that started waiting for somebody to do something and start throwing cuffs or pinging cell phones. Don't go. This is a trap. Do not go. Be like Kamala Harris. Do not come. Do not come. One of the first ones off there, Monty Tkach, says, of course he's a federal agent. That is to be expected. And Amy Gator says, this feels almost too made for TV. He was a federal agent, still is. Yeah, do not. Do not. There's his full-length interview right there. We're not going to do that one here, but do not. Mrs. Betty Bauer says, Dear FBI, meet sniffy insurrectionist. He's threatening domestic terrorism if Trump gets indoctrinated. The FBI knows who this guy is. And by the time everybody's done, he's going to get a commission on the number of people who fall for it and go storm the courthouse. Which, by the way, I am anticipating for tomorrow. I'm anticipating that we're going to see some of that tomorrow. Speaking of people who are acting kind of fetty, the more this woman talks, the less I trust her. Like, I actually thought that she'd be a good thing for Arizona, but lately it's always like now that she wants to go back and do violence against the government. Like, hey kids, do you want to come with me and carry your guns against the government? I promise I'll be right there with you. I get that kind of vibe from her. But let's listen to former Arizona gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake.
I have a message tonight from Merrick Garland and Jack Smith and Joe Biden. And the guys back there in the fake news media, you should listen up as well. This one's for you. If you want to get to President Trump, you're going to have to go through me, and you're going to have to go through 75 million Americans just like me. And I'm going to tell you...
Yeah, I'm not going down there. So 74,999,999. I'd like to keep my firearms and not have them taken away because I am a felon.
Yep. Most of us are card-carrying members of the NRA.
That should be your dead giveaway right there. The NRA will fight for little incremental gun control at a time. We'll just stop it from going too far. That's the NRA.
That's not a threat. That's a public service announcement.
Yeah, I get... Again, when she was on the campaign trail, I did not have that big of a problem with her. But once she came off the campaign trail, I just start to get this vibe. Like Mogwai says, come with me and you'll see a world of federal charges. And Akbar, it's a trap! So yeah, I don't know. I don't know about Kari Lake, you guys. I don't. Speaking of feds, just a little bit of a brief glimpse into the DeSantis campaign. We have this image here. Allegedly, 24 white supremacists are outside the main Disney World entrance in Orlando right now, marching with signs featuring DeSantis' face, swastikas, the N-word, and homophobic slurs. So he's putting the happy merchant onto a sign talking about homosexuality. Meanwhile, any good white supremacist knows that those are two separate issues entirely. The happy merchant and the butt screwer signs are separate when you talk to an actual white supremacist. Just so you know. I know a few of them. Now, mind you, first off, Miss Watts, after she started to get ratioed off of this, turned the replies off, as people started pointing out that these were feds, because these aren't feds, by the way. These are feds. They mysteriously all have the swastika on a flag with the DeSantis 2024 flag after he signed SB 269 into law, which is like kryptonite to Nazis. Something don't pass the smell test here. What's been interesting and something I've noticed, I didn't put it together until this one, when people started talking about the Lincoln Project event in Virginia, when the Lincoln Project sent people dressed up in khakis and white polo shirts with tiki torches in front of a Youngkin bus with pro-Glenn Youngkin signs on them. And then facial recognition technology first picked off the girl, who was pretty cute, I'm not going to lie. But they first picked off the girl, who then went back and scrubbed her Twitter account entirely. And then the Lincoln Project turned around and came back and took ownership of the stunt and said it was poorly executed. And I've noticed that every time we have one of these gatherings like this after the fact, after that happened, they're all heavily masked. Like we've got the gaiters, the neck gaiters on all the rest of these guys. This guy's wearing a bandana. One person unmasked who actually might get arrested for SB 269. But everybody else has got their face hidden, oddly enough. And they've all done it like that ever since the Lincoln Project got caught. Is this the Lincoln Project out here doing this? I'd be willing to put some money down on it. And again, why does nobody come back and pull the mask off these stupid fucks? You're so tricked, this is Antifa. It's not Antifa. Even though they're feds too, but... And I know white supremacists. They don't act like this. I know people who carry that flag unironically, and I call them morons, and they don't act like this. Yeah, Boomboxes says every time they do this, they know they're feds. If you're a DeSantis voter, you would know that this is not a good look, so you wouldn't do it. Mogwai says white supremacy or the Walt Disney fan club. Yeah, that's an interesting point of that too, because Walt was he was a colorful character, especially when it came to those of the Levantes extraction. Yeah, white supremacists only fear one thing: COVID. That's right. From the USA Today, video shows people with Nazi flags, DeSantis signs outside Walt Disney World. From Grace Hawk. Photos and videos gaining attention online appear to show people waving Nazi flags and holding messages in support of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis outside Walt Disney World theme park in Orlando on Saturday. Multiple people can be seen waving red and black flags with swastikas, and at least one person can be seen holding a poster of DeSantis, according to the videos circulating on social media and obtained by USA Today. One photo of the scene shared to Twitter appears to show a DeSantis 2024 Make America Florida flag planted in the ground. Florida Rep. Anna Escamani of Orlando also shared a number of images of the scene. It's absolutely disgusting to see what has become a common presence of Nazis in Florida. Even more disturbing when they're holding signs and flags that signal support for people like DeSantis, Escamani said. Every person, regardless of political ideology, should condemn this. Florida is a state built on diversity, and we will always stand against bigotry and hate. Representatives for DeSantis and Disney did not immediately respond to requests for comment. So, one of the things that was circulating about this too is they're talking about this might actually have been an older picture. And this didn't actually happen over the weekend because a few people who were at Disney showed this was supposedly just outside of the Disney Village entrance. So again, I'm not necessarily denying that it happened, just not on the day that they're saying that it happened. And I still believe they're feds. Mogwai says, I was suspicious until they started yelling, "They took my job!" So, yeah, feds. Alright, feds are gonna fed. Feds everywhere. We've got a little bit more to do and a little bit more time yet tonight. So let's talk about, this one was actually just popping off when we were getting started. We're only going to go for a little bit of this. This is a 10-minute video, which I will link in the chat and the Discord, by the way. So if you're not in the Discord, get in the Discord. But we'll watch a little bit of this. Chuck Grassley claims a foreign national who allegedly bribed members of the Biden family possesses 17 recordings of the conversations he had with them as an insurance policy. 2 recordings are purportedly phone calls with then VP Joe Biden, and again, I need to hear the recordings. I will hold Grassley to the same standard that I hold the left to. Let me hear the recordings, but let's listen.
Last week, I came here to speak to my colleagues about the Biden administration and the FBI playing games with the American people by hiding the FBI-generated 1023 document from Congress and the American people. Director Wray was going to be held in contempt for refusing to produce the 1023 that I told Chairman Comer about, and I think I had that first conversation with Chairman Comer about 3 weeks ago. Then, instead of contempt, the FBI committed to showing the 1023 and related documents to the whole Congress. By the way, I thank Chairman Comer for his cooperation with me and how he's pursued this issue, because we know a heck of a lot more now than if he hadn't been involved in this whole effort. So the FBI showed, after the FBI committed to showing this document, they showed, but it didn't provide possession of the 1023 to the House Oversight Committee last week. And by the way, 1023 is unclassified. So why shouldn't the entire country know about what's in this 1023? As the public knows, that 1023 involves an alleged bribery scheme between then Vice President Biden, Hunter Biden, and a foreign national. The same allegations that Chairman Comer and I made public on May the 3rd of this year. And on the very same day that the FBI provided a redacted version of the 1023 to the House Oversight Committee.
The 1023 was the document that we were listening to Marjorie Taylor Greene screech about on Thursday when the news dropped about Trump, where that showed it was the FBI recording, or the transcribing rather, what was said from the foreign national who called Hunter Biden's son an idiot and said that they had to go back and go directly to Joe.
The Justice Department then announced that former President Trump had been indicted and charged with 37 crimes related to his alleged mishandling of classified records. Attorney General Garland signed off on prosecuting Trump for conduct similar to what Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton engaged in. 2 standards of justice in this country will...
All right, we're going to go down that route again. So let's instead go have a look at what was written about this. Again, this I haven't even pre-read because this popped up as I was live. So, all right, from the Daily Mail. Oh, Jim Turner of the Jets and the Broncos died. That was breaking. A Republican senator says foreign national at center of Biden bribery allegations has recordings of 17 phone calls with Joe and Hunter that he has kept as an insurance policy. Did Grassley keep them, or did Joe and Hunter keep them? Because if Grassley has kept them and hasn't released them at this point, that's kind of shady. From Wills Robinson for DailyMail.com and Kelly Lacko, executive editor of politics for DailyMail.com. Chuck Grassley said the Burisma executive who allegedly paid Biden as a bribe to keep has kept 17 audio recordings of phone calls as an insurance policy. No, it was the executive, the person in the 1023. According to a highly credible whistleblower, an internal FD 1023 memo created in 2020, based off information from a highly paid FBI informant, appears to detail $5 million arrangement for an exchange of money for policy decisions between then Vice President Biden and a foreign national. In a bombshell speech on the Senate floor Monday, the Iowa lawmaker cited what is believed to have been redacted in the FD 1023 file from the FBI and the alleged payment. Grassley says the foreign national has 15 recordings of phone calls with Hunter and 2 with Joe. He claims they were kept as an insurance policy in case the foreign national was in a tight spot. The form also indicates that then Vice President Biden may have been involved in Burisma, employing Hunter. Grassley continued. The senator also slammed the FBI for finally agreeing to show lawmakers a redacted version on the same day that the Department of Justice announced the 37-count indictment. So, and here's the thing that really gets to me. I would be, if this exists, and I don't know if this exists or not, I will give the same standard as I gave to the 37-count indictment. I need to hear the recording to know that it's true. That I need. I can't just go on, trust me, bro. But I've got this feeling if this recording or these recordings exist, we're going to hear them long before we hear, look at this, look over here. I could have declassified this, but I didn't. But look at it, look at over here. Yeah, Boomboxes says Democrats will break your leg, then offer you crutches and act like they did you a favor. Grassley goes on, it's from Fox News. Burisma exec who allegedly paid Biden has audio recordings of conversations with Joe and Hunter. From Brooke Singman. Fox News Digital exclusively reported on the contents of the forum last week. The FD 1023 form, dated June 30th, is the FBI's interview with a highly credible confidential source who detailed multiple meetings and conversations he or she had with top Burisma executive over the course of several years, starting in 2015. Fox News Digital has not seen the form, which is redacted, but it was described by several sources who are aware of the contents. Again, got a problem with that because unless you've seen it, how do you know what's in it? Essentially, Fox News, when they reported this out, quoted what Marjorie Taylor Greene said. Grassley from the Senate floor slammed the FBI for not complying with the House Oversight Committee's subpoena, saying Congress still lacks the full and complete picture with respect to what the document really says. That's why it's important that the document be made public without unnecessary redactions for the American people to see. Let me assist for purposes of transparency. So, and I do want to see the 1023, by the way, like desperately. And I want to hear the recordings. I want to know what's in it. And then Boomboxer says, right, we have evidence on Joe. The left, look, aliens. Yeah, I bet you that story goes further. All right. Let's do, what do we got for time? 10 more minutes? We still got to go through live chat today? Sorry, we still get to go through live chat today. 10 more minutes. Let's talk about the Ukraine for just a bit. No, because that's going to take forever. That's going to take a while. We'll do Tucker instead. We'll save the Ukraine stuff for tomorrow. Unless, of course, we have another hour of indictment news. Scoop! From Axios. Scoop. Fox News says Tucker Carlson breached his contract. From Sarah Fisher and Mike Allen. Yeah, but they've been speculating that's from the beginning. From Sarah Fisher and Mike Allen. Fox News Wednesday notified Tucker Carlson's lawyer that the former primetime anchor violated his contract with the network when he launched his own Twitter show on Tuesday, according to a copy of the letter obtained by Axios. A breach of the contract claim sets Fox News up to explore potential legal action against Carlson, a move that would intensify the already thorny public battle between the two parties. Carlson's lawyers told Axios that any legal action by Fox would violate his First Amendment rights. Fox defends its very existence on freedom of speech grounds. Oh, that's his lawyer. That's not Tucker. Now they want to take Tucker Carlson's right to speak freely away from him because he took to social media to share his thoughts on current events. Carlson's lawyer, Brian Friedman, said in a statement to Axios. Shortly after Carlson posted the first episode of his new show on Tuesday, Fox General Counsel Bernard Guger sent a letter to Carlson's lawyers saying Carlson is in breach of his contract agreement. In connection with such breach and pursuant to the agreement, Fox expressly reserves all rights and remedies which are available to it at law or equity. The letter refers to Carlson's contract, which was originally signed on November 8, 2019, and amended on February 16, 2021. This evening, we were made aware of Mr. Tucker Carlson's appearance on Twitter in a video that lasted over 10 minutes. Pursuant to the terms of the agreement, Mr. Carlson's services shall be completely exclusive to Fox. He continues, quoting Carlson's contract. It adds that Carlson's contract says he is prohibited from rendering services of any type whatsoever, whether over the internet, via streaming, or similar distribution over other digital distribution, or whether now known or hereafter devised. Carlson's legal team, according to a source familiar with Thinking, objects to the network's efforts to block Carlson's Twitter appearances because they believe Twitter is not directly competitive with Fox News. Well, it is, but it's because everything is directly competitive with Fox News. A source told Axios that Fox believes it has been working in good faith to reach an amicable agreement. So, and honestly with Carlson, regardless of the compete or non-compete clause, because one of the things they're going to try to do is try to weasel their way out of paying him for the rest of the contract, which was the stipulation when he got canned, was that they had to pay out the rest of his contract and keep him from going to any other network until 2025. But he can, and I'm not even saying just stay on Twitter. But if they just go down the effect of, okay, well, we're going to rip up your contract and not pay you the rest of it, he's going to say, screw you, I can make more money off Rumble. But they have sent him a cease and desist. From NPC News, Fox News sends Tucker Carlson cease and desist letter over new Twitter show. From Daniel Arkin and Diana Dasrath. Fox News has sent a cease and desist letter to Tucker, alleging that the conservative network's former star anchor breached his contract by launching a new show on Twitter, according to a source familiar with the matter. Carlson, a firebrand right-wing media personality known for spreading its conspiracy theories, parted ways with Fox News in late April, days after the network agreed to pay almost $800 million to Dominion to avert a high-stakes defamation trial. Fox News continues to ignore the interest of its viewers, not to mention its shareholder obligations, Harmeet Dillon, one of Carlson's lawyers, said in a statement. Doubling down on the most catastrophic programming decisions in the history of cable news, Fox is now demanding that Tucker be silent until after the 2024 election. Tucker will not be silenced by anyone, she added. The news of the cease and desist was first reported by Axios. NPC has not seen the letter, but a source familiar and unnamed with the matter confirmed the details in the Axios report were accurate. Top spokespeople at Fox did not immediately respond to emails seeking comment. Because of course they haven't. So, they're trying to get him off the air at this point. And it doesn't sound anymore like it was a matter of difference of opinion and trying to separate him from the network. It does sound like they were trying to come back out and silence him. So that is where we are at with this. Alright, let's look at live chat for the day, because that is what we do on Monday night. So if you've got any more last minute messages in, we've got people talking on Rumble. We've got people watching and not talking on Rumble. We've got people on the main chat. More people watching than unique names that I see over here. So get yourself in if you want to be read on air. And let's do this first. Over on Instagram, we have Luda with a bunch of numbers, Grace, J2023, and J Kelly 450 all joined. No comment over there. Thank you guys for checking out the show. And if you are on Instagram, go check out the link above in the description and you can see the video, the articles, the pictures, and hear the music to go along with this experience. Always go check the link in the bio for that. Looking at the Rumble chat for the day. Boomboxes is our big chatter over on Rumble. Says every time they do this, they know they're feds. If you're a DeSantis voter, you would not do this. It's not a good look, so you wouldn't even do it. Even Stevie Wonder can see this is bullshit. No way, these are DeSantis voters. Boomboxes says people have been cheated. It only takes 30 days to remove squatters from a property. It takes a little bit longer here in the U.S. It's been 3 years now and Biden's still there. Democrats will break your leg and then offer you crutches and act like they did you a favor. And then the other one that I read earlier, the right. We have evidence on Joe, the left. Look, aliens! Squirrel! Boombox says, Joe, it's time for you to speak. Joe's brain. Error 404. Funny how no one from the left has been called a conspiracy theorist. No one from the left has been told they breached their contract. And no one from the left has been canceled. How strange. Strange they call everyone from the left mainly peaceful. Everyone from the right is racist and violent. Yes. I kind of wonder how that goes over in your country too, Boomboxes. Kind of curious, because I know the left and the right dynamic is a little bit different over there. Mostly it has more to do with nationalism versus globalism than individual liberty versus government tyranny, per se. And economic structures as well, but I'm always interested to see what it is that the way you bring things up, because you're looking at this from the outside in. All right, let's look at the main chat. When we started off with standby connectivity because, well, Spectrum decided to do their Spectrum thing. Mogwai says, I think this might be an F Spectrum stream. Nope, we got it. Whatever it does, like I said, it starts at 6 when we get started. And then it just sits there and buffers and buffers and buffers until it disconnects. And then as soon as it disconnects, it's all good again. Mogwai says, pretty sure buffering circle is what's going on in Biden's head. Just like Boombox has said, error 404. After the tech-hating U.S. male supporting Unabomber. Had that happen to me, it was a modem setting. Sean Hannity hates me, and then, of course, I got muted somehow. I don't know what's causing that. I really don't. It's when I switch the scene sometimes, it mutes my microphone, and I don't know why. Mogwai says Spectrum is hateable. And they're one of the only options, though, unfortunately. Mogwai says inflation like the economy is a Garfield balloon on Thanksgiving Day. Mogwai's never used Grubhub. I have a Grubhub account, but I've never even tried it around here. I know it didn't, like, it wasn't there where I used to live and work, so. Mogwai says he would have to use so many stamps now. Silentcaster's here says, what's a Mogwai? Mogwai says, I-95 is a highway to hell. Which Silentcaster says, you're right, it leads to Jacksonville. Oddly enough, the collapse improved traffic. It must mean 95 because 75 doesn't go through Pennsylvania. Yeah, I was going to look at that earlier too. Like I-75, and I know I've been on that, but I don't remember where. Okay, yeah, I see what I did wrong. I see it now. So, what Silentcaster was pointing out was, yeah, it starts in the UP and goes over to Canada over there, but it also touches down by Detroit where it goes into Canada. But it drops down through Ohio there, and then goes down through Kentucky, Tennessee. I've been on it, because when I go to Georgia, I cut over across Tennessee and pick up 75 right before I get into Georgia. That's how that goes. And then, yeah, it goes all the way down into Florida. Towards Miami. I was thinking of 76. That cuts across Pennsylvania and goes down towards D.C. Not 75. Alright, back to what I was doing. Silentcaster's apparently driven every mile of I-75, which means he must have gone to the UP when he was growing up. I don't know where in Michigan he's from, but I've been reliably informed that Silentcaster originated in the great state that goes to my right, because I live over here. He's not there anymore, but I've been reliably informed that's where he grew up. Talk about a bridge collapsing truck wreck. Interesting. I would trust the Unabomber gift wrapping package before I would trust a story on CNN. Mr. Scott is here. Whose voice is that? I don't remember whose voice I was doing. Oh, I was making fun of the CNN op-ed. That's what I was doing. Oh my sugar, there's nothing wrong with them classified documents. You set up a server in your basement. Mine has gags and chaps. I mean, Trump did nothing wrong. Mr. Scott says, Lindsey Graham is an evil puppet. Wow, he's bitchy too, yeah. ABC is classy nowadays. You know, if that's what you call class. This is what happens when you cancel everyone who can think with a modicum of logic. You end up with a bunch of 70 IQ nitwits running the show. Room temperature IQ. He even has the reptile thing going on. Repudiatisms. And then Mogwai says Pat Sajak is retiring. Yeah, I actually have that for things that I like over on for Thursday. I found that while we were watching a video and I saved the tweet for it because he made the announcement on Twitter. Vanna's going to stay on. Probably. Most of Vanna's body is under 18, so don't fantasize about it. That lady stayed the same age for 30 years. Mogwai says, Vanna has so much plastic she melts under a hot lamp. And then Mr. Scott on the outside of Twitch TOS that I can't go over. Well, what I've been pointing out, I can't top that, Mr. Scott, and still be TOS friendly. Oh, guy says, Bill Barr's the old effer that won't give you back the football in his backyard. So Mogwai disagrees with me here and says, I don't think the charges get dropped. Even if he drops out, the left has so much of a hard on because he beat Hillary that they'll take it to trial. So I disagree. I think that if he drops out, the charges go away. Because I don't think it's about getting him. I think it's about getting him out of 2024. Mr. Scott says, engage the glowies! Mogwai says, stay far away from Miami. I use that motto even if Trump wasn't being charged. Mr. Scott says, it looks like Stephen Greer, which I don't know who that is. American ufologist. And I can see it too. Glowy's gonna glow, and that's the glowy worm. Akbar, it's a trap! White supremacy or the Disney fan club? Come with me and you'll see a world of federal charges. Silentcaster's back. It says white supremacists only fear one thing: COVID. Oh, I was suspicious until I started yelling, they took me derb! Whose lost hamster is it, by the way, you're looking for? Is it the hamster in his brain, or is this like the beginning of Mallrats? Lost hamster. No, that was a gerbil in the beginning of Mallrats. If you've never seen Mallrats, look that up, by the way. The intro to Mallrats. I'm going to put it on the test channel. If we can play that, I'm going to play that on stream on Thursday. But I'm going to test it first to make sure that Miramax isn't going to get my channel taken down over it. If not, I might read it verbatim, because it's probably one of my favorite movie openings. Let's see. Mr. Scott says Tucker has something up his sleeve. I think he's not getting paid, or he's still getting paid by Fox until the end of the year. He's not technically fired. He's still an employee. No, he's not an employee. He's contracted. So he had a non-compete clause. And we only see what they want us to see. Rest assured, there's so much unseen and unspoken purposely obfuscated. My stupid black boot opinion is that Tucker's doing all the things he can to get you're fired. Because that makes him able to collect advertising dollars or some such money-related things. Yeah, that's one thing for me, is I think that if he's on the non-compete clause, and that's the thing too, like he doesn't go to Rumble or YouTube, where he would make a fortune almost instantly on Rumble and possibly on YouTube as well. Almost instantly. Function of X raised to lawyers equals X raised to the 400 times lawyer's power. Equation multiplied by Tucker plus ad bucks equals, or plus 1. I knew repudiations would tongue twist you. Nice. Don't be stitching on Silentcaster. I don't know if it's true or not, because I've never actually seen Silentcaster in Michigan, much partially because I've never been in Michigan. But I've been reliably informed that it is possible he did grow up there. Alright. Boombox says, people over here think what's going on in America is nuts. We think the end is nigh. Well, I've heard reliably that people in the UK thought that when Her Majesty passed along. Alright, let's get out of here before I start an international incident. Before I start a war. Who are we going to watch today? I don't know. Who is playing on Twitch? You know, I don't want to do Diablo 4 stuff. because of spoilers. I don't want to do Stardew either because I've been doing Stardew offline. Let's, Jade Skittles is playing Mario World. Let's do that one. Let's go for classics. Alright, let's head out of here for the day. Where's my outro music? There it is. I always lose my outro music when I restart the computer. Alright, so we are done. We got through all the live chat. We got a lot of the news done, but there was a bunch left over, and I didn't think we were going to get very far. I didn't think we were going to get this far, honestly, given all the indictment stuff and everything that has to go on with that. But we got through a bunch. We'll cover some more of this tomorrow over here on Contemporary, so come back in, join up, bring some friends in, and we'll discuss what's happening with Matt Gaetz. We'll discuss what's happening on the foreign platform. And even some Gavin Newsom news as well. We've got plenty of it here. So, hey, we might even get to some Reddit news tonight. So, a lot of stuff here for tomorrow. Definitely come back here and join us for that. We will see you here next time. Take care. Have a good night. Hug your family. Get some food. And we will see you here tomorrow for more news, more headlines, and more Contemporary. And until tomorrow, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.